stolen and never ceded. And also there is something that the struggle here to save the trees here has in common with the struggle of the Aboriginal campaign, the Jabberong campaign to save the 800-year-old trees near Ararat. And for them, as well as for us, there is an alternative to destroying the trees. In their case, the trees are particularly sacred, as well as being very ancient, 800 years old. In fact, you'd think even just the fact they're 800 years old, even if they weren't sacred, would be sufficient reason to save those trees. These gardens here, I believe they're the community's gardens. They're not the government's to take away, because these gardens here arose out of community campaign over 100 years old, over 100 years ago. In 1911, the community of Coburg gathered to create more green space. And it was a community in Coburg that established the gardens and planted the trees. That's why we've got some trees here, I think only a handful, that are 100 years old. So in my books, that means the government doesn't have a right to get rid of these gardens and get rid of these trees. And, you know, there is always an engineering solution, always an alternative. And I think the government's only reason for planning to bulldoze all these trees is because they don't see the trees as having a worth. They think they're just an irritation in the road of where they want to put their cranes. But we know from what previous speakers have said that either the station could be shifted further south to straddle the road or go behind the tram depot, and also there's another possible construction method that would mean they don't need to use a really big heavy crane, so they could save the trees or the vast bulk of the trees. So I think you can't say we've lost unless we've lost. We haven't lost, the trees are still here. So I think, you know, we have to keep on pursuing action, and we can't stop now, and we need to bring all the various community groups together into common meetings so that we can have some collective decisions about what the next action is that we're going to take. I definitely think the idea of a camping protest is one that we should do. And also other forms of, that is one form of civil disobedience, but there are also other forms of civil disobedience as well. And I think we've got to keep in mind that the workers themselves who will be working on this project are not our enemy. They're not the ones who've made the decision to chop down the trees. But I do think that if we can build a sufficiently strong community campaign and a community picket line, that then we might be able to win over the unions that cover those workers to support our campaign and refuse to cross a community picket line of just people like us. So I think that's got to be in our mind, that we build a sufficiently strong, on-the-ground, visible campaign that we win the support of the union that covers the workers, and really so that the government realises, and LXRP realise, and John Holland, the contractor, realise that they will have to have a fight to be able to remove the trees. So I think that's got to be our goal, because the trees are still here. So I think we're still in the process of trying to save the trees. And I think that would be the most fantastic outcome if we can save the trees. I think it would be absolutely critical for the wildlife, for the local community, if we can have that kind of victory, because we need these trees. We know that as fast as the Moreland Council is planting street trees, private developers are removing street trees. So even though council is planting a lot of street trees, it's not actually increasing tree canopy cover, because they're all being knocked down by private developers. And also even the seedlings that they plant, a lot of those won't survive. I know that council has quite a high attrition rate of young trees that are planted being either dying, either because of the climate, maybe lack of care sometimes, vandalism, all sorts of reasons, possibly not enough staff to look after the trees. So even if they plant a whole bunch of trees, besides the fact that it takes so many decades for them to grow to this size. A lot of them won't survive. We know that from the council's experience. So I think we need to try and save these trees. Plus, with climate change, who knows the impact that might mean it will take a lot more decades to reach this height than it has under previous climatic conditions. So we don't really know what's going to be happening in the future if our world ends up being with 40 degrees as a common temperature in summer, not just an exceptional temperature. So I think we've really got to throw ourselves into the task so the government can't get away with just seeing the trees as an inconvenience that don't have any value. These have value, and someone who was here just a bit earlier said to me that in a lot of Buddhist countries, they build around trees. They don't chop trees down. No, I don't have any personal experience. It's just what this man said earlier, who was here in support of the protest. But it sort of is an indication that if you really value something like the trees, then there are ways around it. And the community's done its own research to indicate there are ways around the issues so that we can actually save these trees. And I think the campaign to save Gandolfo Gardens has united the community. So there will be a planning meeting. I'm not sure when. I don't think it's been organised yet, to work out what the next steps in the campaign are going to be. And I think we sort of need, as much as possible, if we can bring everyone together so that we can, have common projects and so forth, so we can have doesn't mean there can't be some little initiatives and so forth, but as much as possible we can concentrate our efforts so that we can have some real success in putting the pressure on the government to recognise the value of these gardens and these trees. So, and also Pauline, who spoke earlier, Pauline's the one who's been collecting the people's phone numbers for an emergency phone tree, so that if we do need, if we get a hint that the trees are about to be cut down, we are going to send out an emergency message to say, come to the gardens at this time tomorrow morning or whatever, or this morning or whatever. Now, not everyone will be able to come because some people will be stuck at work or family commitments or whatever, but the thing is we need to build a really big network so that there are enough people who are able to respond to any emergency situation of cutting down the trees, to account for the fact that some people won't be able to respond at that particular time. So that's our goal, is to build that big emergency network to be able to mobilise to support the trees and save the trees. So thanks to the organisers for organising this. I think one to many actions to save the trees are really important. So all of the actions I think have been really valuable of all of the different groups. And but this isn't the end of it. There will be more actions. Thank you.